Here we are, and welcome to another day of Live at 5, a snowy day. I hope you're here with me in the mountains, getting a little time away. You know, I love when it snows in Colorado. There's just nothing as good as that. You know, we have this gorgeous place, and the snow is like fluffy, and we call that champagne powder. I'm sure if you're really a Colorado native, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a certain type of snow when it's just right and cold, and it doesn't blow so hard. It doesn't even blow into the corner and make drift. It's just perfect for skiing. So I took this picture, actually not today. I wish it was today skiing, but a week ago Sunday, and I was up. This is Loveland, looking down at the pass, and but it was a nice day. And those are my tracks. You can see right down here. There's my right over here. These are my ski tracks. You see those ones right there? That's me. So hope you're having a warm and a lovely day, and thanks for joining us at Live at 5. If you'd like to, we're always here to be joined on Zoom at you can just go to meeting address 694-348-057. You can also catch us on if you're not already there, on Facebook Live and on the Jewish Experiences Facebook page under videos. We have all our recorded episodes, some 150 plus of them, and if you'd like, we're now starting to put them out on a daily basis on the Jewish Experiences YouTube channel. And if you're taking a look, if you go to the Jewish Experiences YouTube channel, you can subscribe there. And once we get to 100 subscribers, which we haven't really looked for subscribers before, but we should have subscribers. You know, everybody should subscribe. We'll send you a free car wax, kit. And isn't that what always growing up, that's what you used to get, this stuff to wax your car with? I wonder why everybody gave that away. Guess they couldn't get rid of it, so they were giving it away. But if you do subscribe and we get to 100, then we can, I don't know what we can do, but the social media experts in the office say we can do stuff when we get to 100 subscribers. So please hit the subscribe button on our YouTube page. We are inching along, getting closer and closer to Tu B'Shvat, and that's tomorrow night, one more day, and it's the 15th of the month of Shvat, as we said, which leads me to this week's Parsha Riddle. Okay, to get ready for the Parsha Riddle, and again, my job is to give you riddles of looking for things in the Parsha that you can't Google. I don't know, maybe you could Google this, but that's my hope, and that is there's a different 15th of the month mentioned in this week's Parsha. Take a look. Not too much of a brain teaser here, but it is interesting that the Parsha does mention the 15th of the month. What month is it mentioned in this week's Parsha? So that's my Parsha Riddle. The Parsha, first you have to know, of course, the Parsha. What is the weekly Parsha? That is Bishalach. That much information I will give you, and then you'll go look in the Parsha and figure out where it says the 15th. Now, also thought that since that we have such a beautiful chock-a-block Parsha, and there's really so much in Parsha's Bishalach, that we would talk about it a little bit today. It's a great day to talk about the Parsha. The words Bishalach are when Pharaoh was sending the Jewish people out, and so it's talking about it. And Pharaoh sent the people out, and then the end of last week's Parsha is where the Exodus took place. The plagues culminated. The Jewish people are leaving, and now off they go. And this Parsha picks up as they're heading from Egypt. A few days later, they'll be at the Yam Suf. The Yam Suf is the Sea of Reeds, and that's where, frankly, the greatest of all the divine miracles of the Exodus took place. Not just the 10 plagues, but even bigger was the splitting of the sea and the destruction of the Egyptian army in the sea as the Jews were saved and walked through the sea on dry land. Some people think that that's the Red Sea, but we have something called the Red Sea. But the Torah calls it the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, and it's not thought to be the Red Sea. It's a little of a smaller body of water. A sea of Suf. Yam Suf means reeds, like you have bulrushes or reeds. You have these little kind of cat tails. We even have those out here, I think. It's like a tall green thing with a brown squishy handle on the top, right? That's I think what those things are. Motion the bulrushes. Sounds like it should be a Sunday school Parsha play. But that is the correct, accurate sea that the Jewish people crossed through. And that's what the Parsha is all about. There are a lot of other cool things in it also, including the manna. The manna, the manna from heaven, the best stuff you get. Yeah, the manna. This is the week when the Jewish people got that. So I'm going to talk about a couple of topics. The first thing that I want to share is, we have different segments now, is a important Hebrew words to know. This is something we're going to hopefully give, go through every week. We'll learn some great important concepts, Hebrew words together. And the word of the week, which we'll see how it emerges from the Parsha is the word hishtadlut, or hishtadlus, if you want to say it in Ashkenazi Hebrew. Hishtadlus is from the word lishtadel, which means to try. It's a good word to know, right? To try. So if you want to put in some effort and make a go of it, give it a try, give it a whirl, give it a try. And lehishtadel means to attempt to do something, as in attempt to do it yourself. Now, it's a very important, it seems like a simple word, but the concept of hishtadlus in Hebrew and in Torah really is a rich concept in which we think about the fact that somewhere in there, in everything that we accomplish, is we have to try. You got to put forth some effort. You have to work at it. But on the other hand, don't we say that like God sort of makes everything happen? He's the source of everything, and it could become a very tricky concept here. And one of the places where we really can think about that is in terms of how we all make a living. How do we survive, this tricky world? And making a living is one of those necessary evils, if you will. God kicks Adam and Eve out of the garden and says, go for it. You blew it over here where I was going to take care of everything, keep your bank account fully loaded at all times. And you could have just walked around and eat off the trees. And instead, out you go. You're on your own. Figure it out. Go make a living. And in fact, the verse actually says that it was one of Adam's punishments for his mistake in the Garden of Eden, and it says, "B'zeas apecha tochal lechem," by the sweat of your brow shall you eat now. And it seems to be like now this is we have to work and schwitz a little bit. And important Yiddish word to know, schwitz, which means to sweat or perspire. So now you have to schwitz on it, and you have to earn. Whereas in the Garden of Eden, everything you needed was just there for the taking, the fruit of the trees, everything you needed. It was right there for you. You didn't have to do anything, just eat and enjoy. But now you have to plant and cultivate and farm, or you have to go to law school. One of the two, you have to support yourself somehow, and there's a lot of schwitzing required. So that was a curse. It would have been better not to do that, in the good old days, way back in the Garden of Eden, or in the future. We won't have to supply ourselves with our needs. We don't have to take care of ourselves like that. But that's not where we are today. Today we're out on the road, and we have to provide for ourselves. But doesn't God provide for us? I mean, let's think about that. We've all sat in synagogues at some point in our lives on Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah, we talk about that God makes all the decisions of who's going to be wealthy and who's not in the year to come, and who's going to wander and who's going to be calm and tranquil, and who's going to live and who's going to die. All those kinds of things. They're determined for us on Rosh Hashanah, right? How much income we're going to make this year, how much of a resources we're going to have. Isn't that determined for us? So what is this curse? We're kicked out and by the sweat of your brow. And what is all that about? How do these two things fit together? To me, on the surface of it, seems like a mismatch. Am I doing it, or is it decreed and God sending it? Who's pulling the strings over here? Where are my needs coming from? And this is a fascinating idea where our sages say that if you really, really, really want never to lack, then you know what you should do on a daily basis to make sure that you always have what you need? Take notes, get your pencil out and write this down. You should read from this week's Parsha where it talks about the manna, the bread from heaven, manna from heaven. Because the Hebrew way of pronouncing manna is mun, which in Yiddish actually means poppy seed spread that you put inside your hamantaschen. That's mun in Yiddish. But in Hebrew, mun is the manna, in English manna. That's the food that God showered down from heaven for us for the 40 years of our existence. And it's this week's Parsha. Now, Why would it be that reading the story or read the paragraph about the manna, what does that have to do with, my making a living? And it comes back to this word of the day, hishtadlus. So let's think about the story itself. The Jewish people were out in the desert, and actually, there's another here along in this story. It also, you'll see the source in the Torah for Jewish humor. Woody Allen, Mel Brooks, you name it. They're all here in this week's parsha also. And the Jewish people, they got out of the desert and they had nothing. They brought nothing with them. They had the matzah on their shoulders, but they ate that quickly. A couple days later, they got nothing, and they look at Moshe and they say, and this is a direct quote. They say, "There weren't enough graves in Egypt. You had to take us out to die in the desert." Now, if that isn't like, that's Jewish humor, right? Seriously, that's the direct quote. There weren't enough graves in Egypt. You had to take us out here to die in the desert. That's Jewish humor right from the get-go. But the things look grim, and the Jewish people have nothing to eat, and so they complain. That's really how you handle that. Generally speaking, as Jewish people, we kvetch. That's another Jewish word, Hebrew word you have to know. We kvetch, which is a very time-honored type of Jewish communication, kvetching, and they were otherwise known as complaining. And they complained and they kvetched and they said, we got nothing to eat, Moshe. And Moshe says, hold on. Here's what's going to happen. And God says, I'm going to rain down this bread for you on a daily basis, and everyone's going to go out and they're going to pick it or collect it like it's a crop. It comes down. Actually, the Torah says came down with a dew, and in the morning, just like there's dew on the ground. So there's within the layer of the dew, there was this special food. And it was amazing food, had all kinds of miraculous properties and benefits, and they ate it very happily mostly happily. It was still a little kvetching, but they ate it basically for 40 years until the Jewish people got to the land of Israel and they got out of the desert and they could plant and eat normal food. But it was miraculous food, it was amazing food, and they had to go collect it and pick it. Now, what it says is, and the verses actually say this explicitly, it's a fascinating thing. It says that everybody, the first day, it was exciting. They went out and they went to pick the manna. And, some people picked a lot and some people picked a little. But when they got home, everybody had exactly the same amount, which was based on the number of people in their household that they were to feed with it. So that's this wild miracle that's going on. Again, this miraculous food, manna from heaven. You go out and you pick it, and you pick a ton of it, and you come home and there's just as much as the guy next to you who just picked a little bit of it. So it seems like there was, with this food, this divine manna, there was a disconnect. The disconnect between what the effort you put in to get a lot or a little, how much effort you put in, and what you ended up with. At the end of the day, God said about the manna, everybody gets exactly what they need. There was no more, no less. It was the only thing not Jewish about this food was there was no leftovers. You couldn't leave any over because then it rotted. There's no leftovers. But otherwise, it was the perfect Jewish food, and everybody got exactly the right amount from heaven. And it didn't matter how much effort you put in. You could try to pick all you want. Pick. Spend the whole day picking. Work hard and schwitz a little extra and bring it a lot home. And when you get home, you have no more than you were supposed to get. And on the other hand, the other people that they didn't spend so much effort. They went out and they grabbed a little and they came home and they had everything that they were supposed to have. And so our sages say that if you really want to have everything you're going to need, it's to read the story of the manna every day, because you need to tap into that lesson that there's a certain amount of effort that we put in, but that's our effort. Hishtadlus, the topic of the day, the word of the day. We put in our effort. We put in our efforts, but you have to also know that what we actually achieve by our efforts is not because of how much effort we put in. It's heaven sent. Like we say on Rosh Hashanah, God decides how well we're going to do, how prosperous our year is going to be every year. And he decides what's coming our way. And it really doesn't matter how much effort we do or don't put in. Now, you can't take this lesson to the extreme that you can just say, well, if it doesn't have anything to do with me, I'll just do nothing. because, you're telling me that it's all determined and God will run the shots. And the answer is you can't do that, because that would require you to rely on a miracle. Because if you make no effort, you're relying on God to feed you miraculously. And we're not allowed to rely on miracles. Can't rely on miracles. So therefore, you have to go through the motions. You have to put forth effort. It's a little bit like, God will send rain, but you have to stand there with a cup. You got to capture the rain. You can't just expect to be nourished and have the water that you need by the rain if you don't have a cup with you. So you have to have some sort of an effort, maybe a living. You have to have a job. You have to have some means of income that by the way the world works, looks like God can send you the income that's not miraculous, but you're not relying on a miracle. You're just making a little bit of hishtadlus. You make your little bit of effort, and then God sends it all to you in your cup, whatever is coming. Just put your cup out there, and in it comes. And this is this fantastic balance or dichotomy or disconnect between the amount of efforts I make and the amount I'm going to end up with afterwards. It's like the manna. It's invisibly just like that miraculous food in the desert. We don't see that, that God's sending it. It looks like work hard, earn more, work less hard, earn less. But if you look carefully, you'll notice in the world that there are plenty of people who are extremely qualified and extremely smart and put a lot of effort, and they fail miserably. And on the other hand, there are plenty of people who, that look like, no skills, no smarts, no street smarts, no effort, and they do amazingly well. And there you see in front of our very eyes this disconnect. But we just put forth our efforts, and we recognize that the ultimate results are not in our hands, and what actually comes in and that wherewithal in our means is heaven sent. Now, one of the very, very important means of hishtadlus at your disposal is actually prayer. And prayer is where you put forth effort, and then God sends it. And that's actually just like having a job. Prayer, in a sense, is also a type of hishtadlus. It's interesting. You may think that, well, having a job, going to work, having a normal income, that's hishtadlus. But asking God for what you need is also hishtadlus. We do that through prayer. And prayer is also, in a sense, a kind of an effort like that. And so therefore, what you need to do in addition is to ask. And you can ask for a miracle. It's not wrong to ask for a miracle, and God can send miracles. In fact, I think he sends miracles frequently. There could be all kinds of things that come to us that are miraculous, amazing. And God sends miracles. What you can't do is you can't just count on it. You can't plan for a miracle, right? I think there was actually someone said that, like, that's Israeli politics. We plan for miracles. That's the way we handle things. But we don't plan. You can count on it. You can guarantee. No miracles are guaranteed. In fact, there are miracles that take place in the Talmud. The Talmud has all kinds of a discussion of stories where God sent this or that other miracle. But I'll tell you one. One time there was the Talmud records one Purim. 1 year was Purim. On Purim we have a special mitzvah to drink. We'll talk about that when the time comes. We talked about it last year at the beginning of Live at 5, right before Purim last year. But we'll talk about it again. We have a special practice, a custom, and a mitzvah to drink alcoholic drinks like wine on Purim. And it happened to be that two of the Talmudic sages were together on Purim, and they drank, and they drank, and they drank, and they drank a little too much. One of them, in the course of the festive celebration, actually shechted the other one, which means he slaughtered him, literally killed him, and felt very badly about that. In the morning, he woke up and he prayed that God should bring a miracle and bring him back to life, and that's what the Talmud records. That's what happened. The next year, he invited him back to his house to celebrate Purim with him again, and that one that his colleague who had been shechted and brought back to life declined. He said, it's not every day that you get a miracle. You can't count on that. So there's a story, you can't count on miracles. They happen, but you can't count on them. And you don't put yourself in that situation. So that's the word hishtadlus, and it happens to be with the manna. And I'll give you one more example from the Parsha where you see hishtadlus sort of really illustrated in the Parsha, and that's this. In the actual splitting of the sea. So the sea ultimately, it sits, it splits, and there's dry land. The Jews can walk in, they walk out, the Egyptians walk in and get drowned. But how does the sea splitting begin? So God says to Moshe, Neteh yadcha al hayam, lean your hand, tilt your hand down to the sea with your staff, and it shall split. Now, did anyone think that Moshe standing there on the side of the sea with the staff split the sea? Did Moshe split the sea? He didn't split the sea. He touched the staff to the sea and it split. He didn't do it. But Hashem didn't just make the miracle. Hashem said to Moshe, first, you do your part. You act, you do something. And then Moshe did as instructed. He put his staff to the sea and Hashem made the sea split. We know with great clarity who's doing what, who's pulling the strings, who's calling the shots. That is God's incredible miracle of splitting the sea and saving the Jewish people by it. But first Moshe had to go through the motions. He had to put in his hishtadlus. He had to put down, just as commanded, he put his hand down to the sea, and then God did everything for it. Moshe didn't do it, but he had to make the hishtadlus. Couldn't just stand there and do nothing. Hashem said, do something. You go through the motions, I'll take care of the rest. That's what God said to Moshe. And that's another example. Shtadlus in the Parsha. Okay, now for the next thing that I wanted to share, also related to the Parsha as well today, is as a beautiful, if it's not exactly a mitzvah, I was looking today for one I wanted to share this week a mitzvah of the week, because there are so many, we've said there's so many mitzvahs, 613, frankly, that we've got to get through. They're all in the Parsha somewhere. And one of the things we'll do going forward is we'll pick out a mitzvah from the Parsha. But not every Parsha has a mitzvah from the list of 613 mitzvahs, the commandments. Not every Parsha has one in it. This Parsha doesn't in the traditional list. But there are definitely so many things that you would even think of are a mitzvah. I want to share with you today for the mitzvah of the week a sort of a facet or an element of mitzvahs in general. The concept of hiddur mitzvah. Now, what does hiddur mean? Hiddur means beautiful. Lahader means to beautify something, to embellish, to make it look great. And the concept of making our mitzvahs look great, that is something that is given to us in this week's Parsha. It's not perhaps its own mitzvah, but it's a facet of the way that we do many mitzvahs, which is that we do them beautifully. All right, so we want to make sure that, for example, some of the classic examples of beautiful mitzvahs would be a Torah scroll. If you're commissioning a scribe to write a Torah scroll, you should find a really talented scribe who has a beautiful script. And when he writes a Torah scroll for you, it comes out beautifully. The language, the look, the script is beautiful. The leather is beautiful. Certainly the Torah mantle is beautiful, and we'll adorn it with beautiful silver, and we'll put it in a gorgeous ark, in a gorgeous synagogue. Another example would be the mitzvah of tzitzis. When you have tzitzis, we know if we have a four-cornered garment, where we have the special mitzvah of tying special strings in the four corners and knotting them a certain way. And we want to do that in a way that looks terrific. You don't want to make it look like some of the children chewed on them. You want to make the strings look great, and the garment should look great and should look nice. And even there's a custom that some people will take something beautiful or special like silver and adorn what's thought of as the crown of the garment of tzitzis. It goes over the head, and they adorn it in silver, make it beautiful, adorn it with beauty and with an adornment. We talked about this week because Tu B'Shvat is the holiday of tree fruits. We talked about Tu B'Shvat being a good day to pray for a beautiful esrog, for the mitzvah of the lulav and esrog at Sukkot time. It's a tree fruit mitzvah. You have take this beautiful fruit of a tree, which we call an esrog, and you want it to be beautiful. Because one of the things that we want all our mitzvahs to be beautiful, and particularly the 4 species that we hold together and shake on the holiday of Sukkot, we want them to be mehudar, to be beautiful. Now, where is this concept seen in the Torah? So the Jewish people, after they are rescued from the Egyptians in the great miracle of the sea and the splitting of the sea, they stand there, they've seen the Egyptians drowned, and they sing this beautiful song. In fact, the name of this Shabbos during which we read this parsha is called Shabbat Shira, the Shabbos of song, because the Jewish people sang the song. It's so beautiful, so meaningful, and it's a beautiful song. One of the lines of the song is, and they said, Zeh Keli v'anvehu. This is my God, v'anvehu, and I will, and the various translations. One translation is from the word na'eh, which means beautiful. And therefore, this is my God, and I will make beautiful things for him. I will do my mitzvahs beautifully for him. So it's like a statement, a declaration. It's like the ideal, the value of beautifying the mitzvahs, the things that we do for God, for our divine commandments, all our mitzvahs. Doing them beautifully is right there in the parsha, right there in the story, right there in the song. And they sang, this is God for me. I'm going to beautify everything that I do for him. And that's the verse from which this concept of hiddur mitzvah comes from. All our mitzvahs we want to do beautifully. I'll tell you something interesting in the that I saw along these lines in the this week's pages of the Talmud that are learned by the international cycle of Talmud study, the Daf Yomi. So we're in Tractate Psachim, which is all about Passover. It's a tractate about Passover, and the Mishnah describes in the 5th chapter that we're learning. The Mishnah describes there what it looked like on the eve of Passover, Erev Pesach, when everybody that is come to Jerusalem with their Paschal Lamb offerings is thronging to the temple, and it's talking about lines and lines of priests, of Kohanim, lining up with their vessels to help in the process. And some of the vessels were silver, and some of them were gold. And the Mishnah actually says that if it was a line of Kohanim with silver, they had only silver, and a line of gold, they had only gold. So you didn't have a mixed line of Kohanim with silver and gold. One line would be all silver vessels, and one line would be all gold. That's what the Mishnah says. So the Talmud is exploring the Mishnah, trying to figure out why is it that there could be, why should that be? Why is the Talmud, why is the Mishnah mandating that this line of Kohanim only had silver vessels and if the other line had gold, they only had gold? Why? So the Talmud thinks possibly that this might be a principle at work, which would be Malin Bakodesh Velo Maridin, which would be we always upgrade when it comes to holy things. We never downgrade. Now, silver is lesser than gold. This is not a new thing, and it's not the Olympics. The Greeks didn't come along and make this up. The Olympic medals, silver and gold. Silver is less significant, less valuable, less meaningful than gold. Gold is always more. So you can't have a line of gold and silver, maybe, thinks the Talmud, because then when they're passing them back and forth, so one had gold and he passes it over, and the next he gets silver, and it would be downgrade. And the principle is we only upgrade when it comes to holiness. We don't downgrade our holiness, right? Only upgrade holiness, not down. So maybe that's the reason. The Talmud says, no, that can't be the reason. Because even if you just have a line of Kohanim with silver vessels, some silver vessels were worth more than others. There was a silver vessel that was a little larger, more silver, was worth 200 mana, and 200 zuz, and another would be worth only 100, and still it could be upgrading and downgrading even in a line of silver, and the Mishnah doesn't seem to care about that. So that isn't the explanation. So the Talmud tries again to explain why is it that the Mishnah mandates that the line of Kohanim that has silver vessels should only have silver vessels, and the line of Kohanim that have gold vessels should only have gold vessels. And you know what the Talmud says? Because it was more attractive that way. It looked nicer. It shouldn't look like in a hodgepodge, a couple of gold and a silver, a couple of silver and a gold. It should look uniform, beautiful, consistent. There's symmetry, and there's rhyme and reason, and it looks like there's forethought, and it looks nicer. And anything that we do that is holy, that's valuable, that we're doing this as a mitzvah, commandment, a credit to an act of service to our Creator. So from this week's Parsha, we learned we should do it beautifully. Nice esrog, nice talis, nice mezuzah. Everything that we do that's holy and that's a mitzvah, we should do it as beautifully as we can. And that's our, if it's not a mitzvah of the week, it's a facet of mitzvahs for the week from Parshas B'Shalach. That's our show for today, folks. Thank you for joining us on another beautiful, hopefully beautiful day of Live at 5. Have a healthy day and a holy day. And we'll see you tomorrow at 5 for Live at 5.